Yeah.
Now, Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville blaming
They're praising Vladimir Putin.
Praising Putin and blaming the United States. The United States for Russia's war against Ukraine. In a radio interview yesterday, Tuberville pointed the finger at America and expressed sympathy for Russian President Vladimir Putin.
But we forced this issue. We kept forcing NATO all the way to Eastern Europe, and Putin just got tired of it. He said, listen, I do not want missiles on my border from the United States of America. It'd be like Russia coming to Mexico and putting missiles in Mexico. I understand what he's talking about. You can tell Putin's on top of his game. One thing he said that it really rung a bell is the propaganda media machine over here. They sell anything they possibly can to go after Russia. They can't win. It's not going to happen. Somebody needs to negotiate. Donald Trump will have it over with in a matter of weeks.
Putin is on top of his game, says United States Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, talking about the murderous dictator who launched an unprovoked war against Ukraine, killing civilians for 2 years now.
Committing atrocities across Ukraine. Recently just killed an entire family in their home. What is he talking about?
What do you do with that?
What do you do with that?
Those you've got a senator from the state of Alabama that is parroting Russian state media talking points, attacking the United States, blaming the United States for Russia's invasion.
Our military.
Russia's invasion of a sovereign country who was not a member of NATO. And we had deliberately not made them a member of NATO. And then you go on, Jonathan Lemire, and you hear Tuberville talking about Vladimir Putin being at the top of his game, attacking American media as propaganda and not hearing. I mean, that he and Tucker Carlson are lined up. And again, I don't know when being pro-Russia, being pro-KGB, being pro-invasion for a guy who is a war criminal. Like, do they love that in Demopolis? Are they all about, do they have Putin fan clubs down in Fairhope? I know Alabama pretty well, and the Alabama that I knew were all, they're kind of Reagan Republicans. They believed in a strong America. They didn't love Russian dictators. But here Tommy Tuberville is parroting Russian propaganda talking points, just flat out parroting them. And this is the same guy that all of our military leaders said was undermining the readiness of the United States Armed Forces for about a year. This guy is bad for America's military. This guy is bad for America's strength. I mean, all you have to do, just to ask people who were serving in uniform, and they'll tell you.
Yeah, the Kremlin couldn't have scripted those remarks any better in that radio interview. And let's recall, just to be said again, Russia, this is an unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. After coming in the last decade or so, Putin also invaded Crimea, Georgia. This is someone who has tried to expand Russian territory and power, not because of his response to NATO, but just because he wants to rebuild the former Soviet Union. And there is this sort of weird Putin praise, this cult that now exists, not among all Republicans, but this sort of extreme MAGA. There is a small segment that views Putin for the masculinity, the hyper-Christianity, the frankly, homophobia, things about Putin that appeal to them. And it's all because they're taking their cues from Donald Trump. That Donald Trump has set the tone from his time in his first campaign when he defended Putin killing people because the United States did it too, to, of course, his time in office.
Well, Jonathan, you were talking about hypermasculinity. I was brought back to our interview with Donald Trump in December of 2015 when he was praising Putin and said how great Putin was. Like, does Tommy Tuberville and do these other Republicans, they also praise the fact that he assassinates political opponents? Do they also praise the fact that you have a Wall Street Journal reporter who is still being captured and still, living in gulags. Hey, what does Tommy Tuberville say about that? What does Tucker Carlson say? What do any of them say about the fact that Evan is still in a Russian gulag? A Wall Street Journal reporter still in a gulag, and you have Tommy Tuberville, and you have Donald Trump carrying Vladimir Putin's water. I mean, and by the way,
after he put a hold on military promotions here in the U.S.
Exactly, and how remarkable, Jonathan, and we're showing these pathetic, sad, weak pictures of Donald Trump from Helsinki, which you ought to retell that story as well. But how shocking that you had to say, in response to a senator blaming the United States of America for Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, you had to say, well, of course, we all know it was not the United States' fault for Russia invading Ukraine. And I mean, the fact that you had to clean up a Republican United States senator's words who was blaming the United States for Putin invading Ukraine shows just how sick this ultra MAGA brand of republicanism is. We already showed the 17 patriotic Republicans who still believe that we support our allies, who still believe we support NATO, who still believe we support Israel, who still believe that they belong to a party that still has as one of its former leaders, Ronald Reagan. Mm-hmm. They haven't forgotten who they are. They haven't forgotten what they believe because of Donald Trump. They actually voted for freedom, and they actually voted for Western democracy with that vote.
Yeah, they did, and that vote likely gets them nowhere because the House seems pretty clearly not to take it up because Speaker Johnson taking his orders from Donald Trump. Tuberville, weaken American military preparedness. Everyone you speak to at the Pentagon says that. And Donald Trump is weakening the United States and its allies' ability to stand up to Russia by what he said over the weekend, saying, go ahead, Russia. Go ahead and invade these NATO countries if they don't pay. I won't do anything about it, which President Biden deemed yesterday as un-American, and rightly so. And yes, you just showed the footage there of Trump's Helsinki summit in 2018 with Vladimir Putin. I asked Donald Trump who he believed. The U.S. intelligence agencies, all of whom concluded that Putin and Russia interfered with the 2016 American election, or did he believe Putin? And he made it very clear he sided with Putin, and everything he has said, including praising Putin as smart, praising his decision to invade Ukraine, has only continued that thread. And that's what we'd be looking at were Trump to take office again.